All right, it is time for the mailbag segment, second half of the Wednesday podcast. And as I've said, I'm gonna do, this is courtesy of Oklahoma Joe's Grills. Go to your local Lowe's, find yourself an Oklahoma Joe's grill, and do it the right way. And if you want to buy online, go to Oklahoma Joe's website, use the code RIDEORDIE10 to save yourself 10% on that grill or smoker that you want. Trust me, you won't regret it. Oklahoma Joe's, that's who I use. They hook me up. Got to give them some love. Let's get this thing started with the Mailbag Believers. He said, Ride or Die poll of the week. So he did two, actually. First one was, to upgrade the wide receiver room, I would prefer to, one option, trade for Brandon Ayuk. Another option, draft in the first round. Another option, draft on day 2. And the other one is just use a tight end, running back, and wide receiver on the current roster. I went with draft on day 2. That was my selection there. And the next one, this was the Oklahoma Joe's poll of the week. When grilling, I prefer to use, he said, propane, charcoal, smoker, or a griddle. So for me, I chose charcoal because even when I smoke, I will use wood chips. I never use really like the real lump wood, but I always have that base of charcoal because I love that charcoal flavor, the smoky flavor. I love it. And I don't use the pre-lit stuff. It's got to be the old school charcoal. That's what I use. All right, let's go to Jeff Coons. I mentioned him in the first half when I talked about Presley Harvin. He says, good morning, Jeff. Does a potential Ayuk trade and a new contract help or hinder George Pickins? Would George benefit from having an elite target opposite him on the field, or would he be threatened by a new alpha receiver? In a world of diva receivers, I have to go there. Hey, our source specifically said the Steelers don't want another Antonio Brown situation. So if this guy is going to be a disgruntled employee or is going to be a me guy, they won't make the trade. They won't do that again. So you're not alone when you have that in the back of your mind. I think the George Pickens would benefit from having a Brandon Ayuk opposite him. I think that George Pickens showed a lot last year, adjusting with the attitude stuff. When he had a game where the Steelers won, and he didn't even get a target, and he never once complained. He was very happy on the sidelines. I think that he's a guy that just wants the team to win. He wants to play for a winner. He went to Georgia, for crying out loud. That's all they did is win. That's what he wants. Let's go to Corey Eckenroth. He asked a couple questions. He said the NFL's coming up into the slow part of the NFL prospect evaluation phase before the draft begins next Thursday. Usually the time when the draft talk gets beaten to death. Yes. What's one aspect Steelers fans should remember leading up to the draft? I'm going to go with something that I've said a million times, paralysis by analysis. You could talk yourself into anything if you watch enough film. So you might say, okay, I'm going to watch this one prospect, and I'm going to look at his highlights, and I'm going to look at his film. At some point, you're going to talk yourself into whatever narrative you want in your brain. Paralysis by analysis. If you are someone that likes to do that stuff, go by your gut instinct. Don't change it. Just go by your gut instinct. All right, let's go another one with Corey. What's your favorite part of draft season? Explain why it's endlessly filling out mock drafts. It is not endlessly filling out mock drafts. My favorite part of draft season is the actual event itself. I love the NFL draft. I think it's awesome. All right, Eric says, Jeff, love the mailbag. Glad you could get some much due respect from Oklahoma Joe's. My question's simple. Who's your sleeper player in this year's draft? Well, I was going to say Graham Barton, but I don't know. There's a lot of people, you talk about first round and all over. I really am starting to like this Cooper DeJean guy. And I don't know if it's DeJean or DeJean. I don't know. But I watched Coach Kevin Smith's breakdown of him. We have an article running today, Wednesday, which is a breakdown of him. That breakdown of Coach Smith, the video is going to be in that article. So go check that out at steelcurtainnetwork.com. I really like him. I just don't think he's going to be there at 20. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. King Tibbs. Hey, Jeff, what's your thoughts on the Ayuk rumors? Do we really need another elite wide receiver in an Arthur Smith offense? Your co-casters have been driving the idea that only one receiver really gets the ball in this style of offense. So number 2 isn't crucial. It'll definitely be an expensive number 2. You're right. Arthur Smith does have a style. That style is not necessarily conducive to having multiple wide receiver options. However, that doesn't mean that if he has really good wide receivers that he's not going to use them. People will always say, well, look at what he did, Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson and Drake London down in Atlanta. If you have a Brandon Ayuk and George Pickens, that's a different stratosphere in terms of the quality players you have at your disposal. So I'm not about to draw that conclusion. All right, M. Dibbs 24 asked a bunch of questions. He said, OJ, Ray, Caruth, Aaron Hernandez. Oh my gosh, Dibbs, what are you doing? He said, you have to pick to add one to the Steelers, who is your pick? Oh my gosh. Nope. No. I'm not jumping on that grenade. I'll say it right now. I'm not jumping on that grenade. Another one from M. Dibs. Name a song that best describes your fellow SCN, Steel Curtain Network podcasters. He used the old slogan there. I would say let's go back to the 70s Pirates. We are family, because I do feel like we have a very good cohesive group, not just myself, Brian, and Dave, but everyone at the Steel Curtain Network. And that includes the writers, some of the new writers that have come on board. Really, it's a tight-knit group. It really, really is. More from MDibs 24. Omar Khan is trapped in a well, chained to the bottom with handcuffs. What did he trade the Bears for his release? I bet he trades a 2025 conditional 6th-round draft pick. And then the last one, if you had to add a Pittsburgh sports star from any sport except football, who do you add and at what position? Okay, so I can add any Pittsburgh sports star from any sport. This is a tough one because not all sports are conducive to football. But you know what? I bet Roberto Clemente would have had a freaking cannon of an arm. Put him back there, quarterback. The dude's elusive. He can run too. Arriba. Let's go. Let's get some Roberto Clemente in a quarterback. That's what I'll go with. There you go. All right, let's go with James. He said, hey, Jeff, in your opinion, who replaces Miles Boykin's gunner duties? I personally feel he was such an ace at that specific role, a role that can be overlooked for sure. It can be overlooked, no doubt about it. I don't think, though, that really the gunner role, because James Pierre is another one that they lost. Let's not forget that. He went to Washington. So they lost both Boykin and Pierre, both their starting gunners. I think that when you look at someone, even like a Quez Watkins, a Van Jefferson, you throw in some of these other defensive backs like a Luke Barku. You could even say Darius Rush could be one of those guys. They have options. And then you always have these undrafted guys that are willing to run through a wall to make a team. I think they'll be fine at gunner. Brian Katz, is Conor Hayward's job less safe, as safe, or safer than it was now that Arthur Smith is the OC? I would say as safe. Even with Matt Canada, there were times where I wondered, is there a role for this guy on the team? Is there even a role for any? Does Conor Hayward have something built in for him? And there were times I couldn't answer that question. So I'm going to say as safe. That's a good question, though. Diego Fernandez says, hey, Jeff, Kahn has done amazing moves concerning our offense, and the narrative still is improving it via draft or Ayuk rumors. So aren't we undervaluing the needs on defense? We played last season with no safeties, inside linebackers, and questionable defensive line with an aging Hayward. I've been saying this from the moment the season ended. My concerns were more about the defense than they were the offense. That doesn't mean the offense didn't have holes that they needed filled. So you look at the offensive line, there's still work to be done. Wide receivers, still work to be done. The rest of it, man, that's on the defense for me. Like they need to figure out the defensive line. You mentioned Cam Hayward's age, not getting younger. Inside linebacker, Patrick Queen, still could use safety. Definitely some cornerbacks. I think this draft, everyone's predicting like offense. I could see 2-3 offensive picks, and then I could see the other 4 being defense. I could see this actually being a defense over offense draft. Black and yellow, Benno. Hey, Jeff, what kind of role do you expect Darnell Washington to play in Arthur Smith's offense this year? Does it differ from how you would use him if you were in Arthur Smith's shoes? I want to see this guy. And by I say this guy, I want to see Darnell Washington used in multiple ways. I cannot stand when players are what I call red flags, meaning they come on the field and it's like, hey, red flag, here comes Calvin Austin III. He's a gadget guy. He's either going to go deep or he's going to run a jet sweep. That's what it was with Matt Canada. And when Darnell Washington was on the field last year, it was, number 80's out there. They're going to run the ball. He's just another tackle. They're going to run the ball. You have to keep the defense on their toes, send him out into pass patterns, give him some targets, hit him down the seam a couple times, and then now you have a defense guessing, well, what are they going to do? That's what I want to see the Steelers do with Darnell Washington. Jay Allen asks, I have looked at hundreds of mock drafts, and I don't think I've seen a bad one with Zach Frazier at 51. Is there anything else that you would like to see as a realistic best case scenario? In my opinion, just my opinion, depending on the tackle situation in the round 1, I'd love to see the Steelers move back. Now, let me give you a specific scenario. If they move back with the Bills, let's say the Bills want to trade up 28-20. The Steelers at 28, not only would they probably gain another day 2 pick out of that trade, but now at 28, if they take a center, it's not deemed a reach, and they still can probably get a really good center. So let's say they get an early, I don't know what picks the Bills have. We're just going to run with this example. The Bills give them a 3rd round pick, and they swap 1st round picks, and maybe they throw in a 2025 pick. So the Steelers now can package that in the 2nd round, and they can move up if they want as well, if they want to go up and get a center if they don't take it at 28. That's, I think, the best case scenario. Doc M, are the Steelers currently in a win now mode? Is there a difference between Ben's final seasons and Russ's first in Pittsburgh? And does it change the draft philosophy or plan? I think the Steelers are feeling the heat to win now. Art Rooney II has said it. Mike Tomlin is feeling it. They know they haven't won a playoff game in a really long time. Getting there is not enough. To win now mode. And I think with Ben's final year, Russell's first in Pittsburgh, throw Justin Fields in there as well. I think it does change your draft philosophy. You want players are going to be able to come in early and contribute. And that's what they had last year. When you think about the 1st round pick, Broderick Jones, 2nd round pick, Joey Porter Jr., Keanu Benton, they need those type of players in this draft. Steelers fan 69, who always provides some comedy. He said, the police just knocked on my door to tell me my dog was chasing a kid on his bike. My dog doesn't even have a bike. Next joke. 2 slices of bread got married. The wedding was amazing until the best man decided to toast the bride and groom. And then last one. Why did the cat get a ticket? Because it littered. But Ching, love it. Thank you very much. Let's go to Joseph Gallagher. If the Steelers had gotten Justin Fields first, would they have still picked up Russell Wilson? I'm going to say that if they got Fields first, they probably would not have gotten Russell Wilson. But again, everything that transpired happened in an order that caused the next thing to happen. So they get Russell Wilson. That pisses off Kenny Pickett. He throws a temper tantrum, so to speak, reportedly. He gets traded. That then gives them the fuel to get Justin Fields into Pittsburgh. They all happen in order. So I hope that answers your question. Zach Farnsworth, he said, good morning, Jeff. What's your favorite Steelers memory you experience with your family, if there is one? Thanks for the great content. Hashtag Ride or Die Crew. So my favorite Steelers memory that I've experienced with my family. Well, there's 2 sides of this coin. The first one is my family that I grew up with, meaning not my current family with my wife and my children. I would say that is still my greatest memory is the 2005 divisional win over the Indianapolis Colts. I've told that story before. If y'all want to hear that story, ask it again on the next mailbag, and I'll gladly share it. A lot of people crammed into a small apartment. There was elation. There was crying. I felt I was going to throw up when Jerome Bettis fumbled. It was just a phenomenal memory. With my kids, I can honestly just say that when they choose, they're not forced to watch games. When they choose when they have to choose what they're going to do that day and they choose to spend that time with me and watch the Steelers and they have a vested interest, that is a memory that I'll never forget. Let's go to the last question with Stephen Morey. He said, is it just me or does this year seem a bit more desperate during the draft? I trust Tomlin and Khan to get it right, but there are a lot of holes in the roster. I don't know if desperate's the word. I would say there is a sense of urgency with this team. I think that's fair. I wouldn't say desperate. I would say urgent. Yes, there is an urgent feel to this upcoming NFL draft. All right, that does it. Thank you all very much. The Ride or Die Crew is the best. You all never disappoint with the mailbag. If you wanted to have your question answered, it's simple. Find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. Every Tuesday morning, I put out the question. All you have to do is respond to that tweet. I will answer your question live here on the Wednesday show. But that does it for me. I will be back on Friday. Make sure you check out all of our content at the Steel Curtain Network and steelcurtainnetwork.com. You won't want to miss any of that. In the meantime, you know how we finished it up. Be safe, be kind, and God bless. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Friday. Go Steelers.